Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. So Bill Self. Okay, so Bill Self, first of all, apparently this interview that ran today was a week old. I got to confirm that. But all right, so Bill Self, over the last couple of days, we talked about Bill Self on Sunday's show into Monday, okay? We talked about the fact that he was hospitalized for the second time in a couple months, or in a couple years, excuse me. By the way, quick side note on this, because I had a lot of people, oh, Torres, I saw you smiling while you were talking about Bill Self being in the hospital. That was actually a comment in the comment section. Let me address this very quickly. If I was smiling, it's because I'm a professional on screen, and you don't want a mopey Mary on your screen crying and wiping his eyes, okay? To be clear, in case there was confusion, yes, Bill Self was in the hospital. No, I'm not rooting for him to have health issues. No, I'm not rooting for him to be forced to retire. I hope that is abundantly clear. Yes, I'm smiling again. I apologize. But look, it was a sad story. It was a scary story. I want Bill Self to coach forever, okay? Let's put that on the record. I am pro Bill Self coaching forever. I am also anti-kicking puppies. I'm pro rainbows. I'm pro sunshine, and I hope everybody gets rich and lives forever, okay? So now that we got that off the table, let's go ahead and talk Bill Self, okay? Because he was in the hospital. He has thankfully been discharged, and it was interesting because on the show, it's interesting that he's been discharged. We hope he's okay. But on the show on Sunday, we did talk about the fact that, like, at this point, we have to acknowledge, nobody's around forever. Nobody's in any job forever. And I don't think Bill Self, I think there's a possibility 2025, 26 could be his swan song. 64 years old, coming off a second major health scare in 3 years. You just don't know how much he has left. Darren Peterson, maybe the number one pick in the draft, is on his roster. He actually mentioned in the Rothstein interview that he's never had a freshman like Darren Peterson. That includes Andrew Wiggins, Joel Embiid, etc. But Bill Self did address his future and the future of Kansas basketball. And he said something what I thought was very interesting. So he was asked by Rothstein. Rothstein's great. I love Rothstein. He was asked, kind of when it is time to go, what do you envision the future of this program? And more specifically, this trend of the legendary head coach handpicking his successor, a guy that almost always has ties to the school. Is that going to be you? So we know when Roy Williams stepped aside, Hubert Davis took over. When Jim Calhoun stepped aside, Kevin Ollie took over. When Dukes, Coach K handed it to John Shire. So Bill Self was asked, what is next after you leave? Is it someone that needs to have Kansas ties? Interesting segment. It's a little bit of a longer quote, so kind of just stick with us. I want to give the full context. Question, answer, Bill Self, what happens after he leaves?
In 2021, you received a lifetime contract to be the head coach at Kansas. So I'm not going to do the cookie cutter question here and say how much longer do you want to coach. But I asked Jay Wright this years ago. I asked Tom Izzo this in the past. So I'm going to ask you this now. Whenever you're done coaching, is it important to you that your successor has ties to Kansas?
You know what I hope we hire the best guy that gives Kansas the best chance to have the best basketball future moving forward. Would I love for that guy to be one of my guys? Absolutely. Or have ties to Kansas? Absolutely. In a perfect world, yes. The answer is an emphatic yes. But at the end of the day, you know what I would probably hope? If that guy has ties, fantastic. If he doesn't have ties, go get the best guy that can, take this program, hopefully even to another level. I think that's the goal that we have. I can certainly see keep it in the family, so to speak. But the reality of it is you don't do that at the expense of taking a step backwards. Right. And right now, I think I got a guy or two on my staff that would be fantastic. But, timing's everything. And they could have kept it in the family whenever Roy left.
Right.
And I don't want to speak for others, but from my vantage point, it's worked out decent. I don't. And you look at others that keep it in the family, and it's worked out great. And you look at scenarios where it doesn't work out great both ways. So I don't know that you can say positively what needs to happen before you actually know the situation and the candidates that could potentially be involved.
So that was Bill Self on the future of Kansas after he leaves. I'll be honest, a little bit, in my opinion, of a shocking comment, but I think it is a very good comment, and I think it is a great thing for Kansas basketball that he said what he said. Okay, so first of all, a couple things. One, and he did reference this. He said, I got a couple guys on my staff that I think will be very good. It is worth noting, we did talk about this on Sunday Night Show when he was in the hospital, Jacques Vaughn. So Jacques Vaughn is a program legend. Growing up as a kid, he was like the first Kansas star that I really remember. I'm a little bit too young for Danny Manning. But Jacques Vaughn is now an assistant coach at Kansas. And I think the thought was, former player, NBA head coach. He's been an NBA head coach. When Bill Self steps aside, he's going to be the guy that gets the job. And so I think that was the thought. But you hear what Bill Self said, and he said, look, we got a couple guys on our staff that I think can do it, but it can't come at the expense of Kansas basketball. I'm actually surprised by that, but I give Bill Self so much credit, okay? Because what Bill Self is acknowledging, Kansas basketball is bigger than me. Kansas basketball was great before me. May have heard of James Naismith, may have heard of Fog Allen, may have heard of Larry Brown, may have heard of Roy Williams. It's going to be great after me. I have a standard to uphold. And I'll be honest, you know what else I would add? I think it's kind of selfish when a lot of these coaches try to dictate who takes over for them. And I give Bill Self credit for saying nobody's bigger than Kansas basketball, and no decision is going to come at the expense of Kansas basketball. I actually love this answer from Bill Self, okay? And so a couple things. One, let's just be honest. The legend handing the program off stuff hasn't really worked, right? Villanova, Jay Wright decides to leave, gives it to Kyle Neptune, his longtime assistant. I know Kyle Neptune had 1 year of head coaching experience, had left, but he comes back from Fordham, wasn't ready, fired after 3 years, kind of a disaster. Syracuse, never forget. I mean, everybody's forgotten about Syracuse basketball at this point. They were struggling in the end of the Boeheim era. Boeheim retires, hands it over to his longtime assistant. They're somehow even less relevant than they were. Hubert Davis remains to be seen. I try to be optimistic about him. I think he's going to be okay, but this is kind of a make or break year. $14 million roster. It's go time. You got to figure it out. I'll say this. Jim Calhoun's maybe my favorite sports personality ever. I am probably doing what I do today. Why I love college sports so much is growing up in Connecticut watching Jim Calhoun's teams. Jim Calhoun kind of forced Kevin Ollie on the administration. Now, it worked out for UConn because they got national championship number 4 in 2014. Shout out Kevin Ollie. But we also have to acknowledge that was probably more of a Shabazz Napier, Ryan Boatwright, guys left over from the Calhoun regime. DeAndre Daniels, don't forget about him, than it was anything to do with Kevin Ollie. So this thing has not worked out. John Shire, by the way, looks like the one that has kept the program at the standard that it was. But I give Bill Self credit for saying, like, no, this isn't just I get to make the decision. It is if the right person is either on staff or has Kansas ties, then I'm all for it. But if not, then we have to go out and get the best person possible. And to take it a step further, I think it's going to be so fascinating to see what happens when this job opens up. One, obviously, again, to be clear, I hope Bill Self coaches till he's 90. If that's what he wants to do, I hope he coaches another 25 years and he's 90, whatever. But if this thing does open up soon, I'll just be curious where we are in college sports, right? Because we have this rev share thing now. And we have, by the way, a scenario where everything I hear out of Kansas, they're really trying to prioritize football because they know that's the future of college sports. But at the same time, if that job opened up, I do think it would create a lot of interest. And I think it'd be one of those places where I know there haven't been a lot of big name coaches that leave one job for another. whatever. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Like even Kentucky, Mark Pope gets hired. Mark Pope's a great coach, but he hadn't, never won a tournament game before he got the job. The only reason I bring it up, I think somebody good would be willing to leave their job if Kansas hypothetically opened up and if they did a true national coaching search. And I think what would be interesting is, especially as we get deeper into this rev share NIL world, is there a coach that maybe right now has the support they need, but maybe can't get it year over year over year, right? So I'm thinking about like somebody like Nate Oates, right? Nate Oates has built Alabama into a juggernaut, but Alabama they didn't spend money like everybody else did this spring. They don't have money to just drop whatever it takes to put together a national championship roster like a Kentucky, like a North Carolina, like a BYU, like an Arkansas, whatever. Would he have to consider leaving if we get deeper into this rev share world and he just doesn't have the resources to compete with everybody else? TJ Otzelberger, Iowa State, I know he loves it there. I'm not saying that he would leave, but TJ Otzelberger, Iowa State is very public about like, we're struggling with this NIL thing. Would he consider leaving Kansas if he thought there was a better scenario where he could win big in a huge way? I can't even think of who, Chris Beard, by the way, I don't think it's a secret. Chris Beard was kind of behind the scenes trying to get the Indiana job this offseason. It doesn't work out. Would Chris Beard be a candidate there? Is he far enough removed from all of the controversy that surrounded him at Texas where he could be a guy that would want that job or could get that job? So it's just interesting to me because, again, we've had these scenarios where these big time jobs open up and it's not even, North Carolina didn't even do a search. Duke didn't even do a search. That's why, by the way, I credit Kentucky. I know Calipari left on his own, so it's not like Calipari could name his successor. But Kentucky, even when Calipari had it rolling, there was never this thing of like, oh, Calipari is going to hand it off. It's like, no. Kentucky was like, when you leave, we're going to appreciate your service, and we hope you retire and retire into an administrative role. But we're going to go out and get the best head coach. And so Kansas, it appears, is going to do the same. I give Bill Self credit. I like that he acknowledged, hey, I probably wasn't the number one choice when I got the job. They could have kept it in the family when I got the job, but they went out and got who they believed was the best candidate. And I think I've done a pretty good job since then, but I'm not going to try to dictate and I'm not going to try to force either. So it was a really interesting comment. Again, for the third and final time, I hope Bill Self coaches as long as he wants, but at some point that job is going to open up. And it sounds like there is a very interesting scenario where we could hypothetically get a true coaching search, which we had one for Kentucky, we had one for Louisville, but some of these big jobs that opened up didn't get a coaching search for Carolina, didn't get a coaching search for Duke. So we'll see what happens.